I'd like to request another gentleman of ours who's on stage who really doesn't need much of an introduction, Surendra Patawari ji, Chairman of Gemini Corp. He's just come back from the World Economic Forum in Davos, and it's a privilege that he's joined us here in Kolkata at the MRAI conference. Please, sir, the podium is all yours.
Thank you, Jain Bhai, for the kind introduction, and thank you, Dhaval Bhai, for raising the bar of expectation. Allow me, ladies and gentlemen, to imagine that Sanjay Ji Mehta is going to start a business of recycling electric batteries and electric cars. Over the next 10 years, he would be recycling 50,000 electric cars. For every car recycled, imagine, I repeat, imagine, he gets a direct subsidy of $100. He gets a tax credit of $200. Over the next 10 years, that would an amount of $15 million. Let me continue the story with one more last imagination, that Sanjay is able to get this entire amount of $15 million in his bank account immediately right now. How would you feel if the money is credited in his account even before the project has started? Well, in India today, that would be really an imagination, but in US today, that's a reality. What should we do in India to make it a reality? What can MRAI do about it? These are the points, Honorable Sanjay Kumar ji, MRAI President Sanjay Babu, board members, dignitaries, ladies and gentlemen, these are the points I'm going to talk about today. Under this famous US environment law known as IRA, it's possible to sell your future credits for immediate proceeds. And that's what a deal has been recently done by a company called First Solar. It sold its future credits, tax credits worth $700 million to a large listed fintech company called Fisher. This US environment law has unleashed explosive materials leading to industrial war. It's giving direct tax credits. And the amount is staggering. The direct tax credit, which in effect ignoring the WTO rules in the name of environment. The amount which would come in the US as a result of these laws is expected to be about $1 trillion. To give you a comparison, Indian GDP is expected to be around $4 trillion, $3.5 to $4 trillion. Indian stock market valuation is about $4 trillion as well. While speaking at a New York Stock Exchange conference, I had an opportunity to meet the Director of Energy of US, an Indian origin person, Mr. Jigar Shah. I learned he has a responsibility of distributing $40 billion. And I also learned that in the US environment law, there is an explicit focus on giving tax incentives. Maje ki baat dekho, even if you are making losses in your business, you would still get this tax credit and you can encash it. I'm a chartered accountant by education. I have never heard such a generous arrangements that you make losses and you get tax credits. And it doesn't stop there. Are you ready for my next piece of information? Such generous arrangement would continue for next 10 years. Naturally, surely enough, Europe was very angry at these unfair trade practices, but they are also smart. Instead of fighting in the WTO, like most of the developing countries do, they came out with their own subsidies. Then Canada has come out with $15 billion of subsidies. Australia is coming. I strongly feel India should also become part of this race. Here is my point, my question to Honorable Sanjay ji. Why should we be afraid of WTO rules? Why we don't come out with our own subsidies? Why we are sitting silently? I believe, and I strongly believe, in the name of environment, it's possible to make these special arrangements without flouting the WTO rules. How about making substantial subsidies for the industry producing materials from waste? Can you imagine the number of employment we would generate, the capital we would create if recycling industry gets 30% subsidies? Let's take the case of plastics. There is a huge demand for recycled plastic throughout the world, materials made from the recycled plastics. Over 1,000 companies, large companies, have given public commitments to use recycled plastics. This commitment has been given to Ellen MacArthur Foundation, a very well-known foundation with which I am associated. And I'll be very happy to share this list of 1,000 large companies through MRAI. You may have heard about these regulations which has come in the UK. Any export, I repeat, any export to UK which has plastic packaging around it has to have 30% recycled content. Otherwise, there is an import tax of 250 tons per metric ton in the UK. Clearly, there is a lot of demand. Clearly, there is a lot of demand within India, outside India. And such tax arrangements would also lead to more employment in the low-income categories of India. There are over 2 million waste pickers in India. How about making it trade in scrap GST-free? Provided, of course, the payment is made through UPI and banking channels. India would have a number of new taxpayers in their categories. And also, I want to remind you that in Europe, there is no GST on scrap trade. Recently, Europe came out with a decision to ban export of plastic waste to poor countries, as Sanjay Bhai talked about earlier, from the middle of the year 2026. Why would they will ban the exports? Because they believe that their circularity legislation will save them 600 billion euros of costs, 2 million jobs, and will create economic benefit of $1.2 trillion. It's a huge benefit. I think it's very important that we keep in mind what's going on in a different part of the world. But MRAI has to make sure that such protectionist measures by backdoor are not implemented. And what do we have to need? We need the help of the government. We need special ministry. I think MRAI should appeal to Honorable Prime Minister to make a dedicated special ministry for resource and scrap similar to what has been done in UK. Mrs. Harrison was appointed as resource and scrap minister in UK about 3 months back. In Davos last week I heard that the United Arab Emirates government is so forward-looking that they have created a special ministry for artificial intelligence. Very clever people. It's a very hot topic. Similarly, we must also be forward-looking that there must be a special ministry for scrap. While in Dubai, I had opportunity of participating in COP28, where 70,000 people participated. And I was happy to see the role of recycling everywhere. And it's in Dubai, I saw the importance and power of having a godfather. King Charles, he is no more Prince, King Charles is the godfather of circularity. And by becoming the godfather of a circularity task force, it was possible for the task force to have the inaugural meeting at a very high level, COP28. Because his name was associated, it was possible to have the first general meeting at a prestigious event in Davos in World Economic Forum. What I meant to say, if we can have a godfather similar to him, we have a visibility. I think MRAI should appeal to influential people like Ratan Tata to be our godfather. How about having an MRAI event in Davos in next 2 years? We must think about it. Such high-level meetings would give us a lot of different perspectives, particularly on the global trade. I want to remind you, ladies and gentlemen, that the economics of global trade is changing fundamentally. It's the cost of carbon, it's the cost of CO2, which will be the main deciding factor. Europe and UK have introduced CBAM tax, carbon border adjustment mechanism. Under the tax, both UK and EU importer will have to pay carbon tax on their imported product if that product has not been subjected to the similar environmental regulations in the producing countries. Because of this law, Indian exports worth 7,000 crores will be impacted. Exports from India to UK, it would be subject to a tax burden between 14 to 24%. So clearly, a lot of things has to be examined, and I think this impact will continue to grow as the climate concern goes up. You are hearing everywhere fire, floods, heat waves, hurricanes, and as a matter of fact, the year 2023 was the hottest year during last 174 years. Therefore, under the Paris Agreement, every country has an obligation to reduce their carbon footprint. There is a pressure on every government to do something about it, and the pressure is so enormous that I felt people are changing their century-old behavior, like eating dairy products, like eating meat products. I had an opportunity to make a speech in Wuppertal, Germany. At that conference, there were 1,200 people, including 2 chief ministers from Germany and Belgium. I was shocked and surprised when I saw the food over there at the event, all vegetarian for one day, 1,200 people. I saw the similar situation I witnessed in south of France at an event organized by Ellen MacArthur Foundation. 300 top-class chief sustainability officers in south of France for continuous 2 days vegetarian meal. Well, why? What happened? I think for me to think about having a vegetarian food in middle of Germany and in south of France, isn't it completely radical and unthinkable change? But people are making change for the sake of environment and for the climate reduction, for the carbon reduction. I believe for carbon reduction, recycling industry is the lowest hanging fruits. The world is investing trillions of dollars in those projects, which will give results between 5 to 7 years. Why not invest in recycling industry where you would see the result in 1 or 2 years? I want to say, ladies and gentlemen, our industry is enjoying a golden period. This is what I saw there in the World Economic Forum, in COP28. I felt that we are being put in a very positive limelight in practically every conference they talk about sustainability, recycling, and circularity. Let's not allow the prime producer to steal the limelight. It should be ours who should make the best of it. Finally, Sanjay Babu, MRI board members, आप चाहे कुछ भी करें, सर झुकाएं, हाथ जोड़ें, पांव पकड़ें, but please get these similar subsidies from the government. Please get anyway, anyhow, similar green packages, just similar what Europeans have got, what American industry has got. We should not allow, we cannot afford to be overpowered by the rich countries. I would request Sanjay Kumar ji, please help us win this green economic war. Please help us to become the green pioneers of the world. Thank you so much for your attention. Namaskar.